From her fabulous book called Warmth. Sumiko.
I want to thank you all for coming out here and making some noise for me here at Blow Salon. Yeah. So there is wine over there if you feel that you need some wine. There's some wine for free, but my books aren't free. They're $17.95, so don't grab one. And then is beer, which Jill is happy to serve you a beer if you want a beer, and there'll be snacks a bit later. So thank you, and stay please for the rest of the entertainment. My band Stage Fright will be playing later after Ronzoli Calzone up here. This gentleman in the back, he's going to be playing an acoustic set prior to that. And we're really looking forward to that. Here at the Blow Salon Auditorium, where we get down. Yeah. Okay. So my name is Sumiko Saulson, and I will be reading from not my debut novel, Solitude, because I sold all of those, but basically from my most recent novel, which is called Warmth. I hate the dead. They have no self-control, says Sarah. Sarah calls herself by many names. Lately, Leilani Paoli. She compares her life to a dark comedy, stuck spending the last 600 years as a ghoul, the only form of seemingly unnatural life on Earth. Or is it? Some people think it's a disease. She is cold all of the time, constantly running a fever, and has been pregnant for 600 years. And if that's not bad enough, when she dies, she can look forward to the same thing as every other ghoul, being resurrected as a hungry corpse who spends the last weeks of its life rotting and infecting everyone possible. Luckily, two things in life sustain her: her joy in hunting and destroying the dead, and the constant seeking of warmth. So, those of you who are familiar with my writing probably know that this is not my first novel. I'm a little prolific, and my first novel was called Solitude, and it's a science fiction horror story taking place almost exclusively in San Francisco. But Warmth was something that I wrote while I was in the middle of writing The Moon Cried Blood. I decided that I couldn't really handle continually writing what attempted to be serious literary fiction, and I was just going to go for something that was straight up dark comedy and horror. You're going to have to pardon me, I'm sweating a little here. I heard that's probably perimenopause or something like that. I'm not going to worry about it too much. But so basically this is the third novel that I wrote, and I'm going to go ahead and read another passage which has to do with Surah. Surah is the main character, and she's a ghoul, as you just learned on the back. And of course, I'm sorry, I'm helping to organize the event, so I have to answer my cell phone. Hey, Becky.
I told them never to call me here.
So, there's a part. Okay, I'm actually in the middle of my reading, but that's okay. You don't have to record this part, Andreas.
Too late.
Yeah, basically, she's a ghoul, and we're gonna read about her now. And just ignore this whole sweating thing. I'm not saying that her sweating all the time in the book was, inspired by this exactly, but it probably was. And Eddie?
Yeah.
You don't need to set up your drums yet, do you?
No. I'm
You're good? Okay.
Yeah, I'm right here.
Well, this will go on. Yeah. So this will go on for another half an hour.
Okay.
So you're good. Just chill and stuff. Okay. So now we can record. Start. Chapter 1. The Book of Baby Girl Names. Missy. It was only a virus. Remember that. It was only a virus, and it's important that you know that. Otherwise, you will never understand it. I'm sure that you do know that we didn't always know what a virus was. We didn't always have your sciences, and were convinced, in fact, that worms sprouted whole from rotting meat. That's called spontaneous generation. So what would we have thought, really, if we knew such a thing as a virus existed? Something entirely different. And there wouldn't be such a great mythology about us. When I say great, I mean both fantastical and voluminous. Fantastical implying fantasy, and it's intentional because really so much of it is false. You will tell me that I am rambling on, because I always ramble. Because I was nervous and verbose from the day I could speak. And when I tell you my story, you'll be convinced it is a comedy. Because people always think I'm joking, no matter how sober my mind and serious my delivery. Because I, like you, am bound by what others think of me and can't convince an entire world to see things exactly as I do. For all of these reasons, and others unstated, I say to you, it was only a virus. At least, I think so. The words trailed off at the end of the page and were crammed below on the side, written into the margins, words and phrases in a language he was unfamiliar with. The notes were in thick block print. He construed as masculine and were deeply pressed into the page. They stood at odds with the scrolling feminine cursive that dominated these journals, diaries, he thought. And they took on such a fantastical tone, he often thought they were attempts at fiction. The darker margin notes might have been the work of an editor, but why would this second writer comment in a different language? Matthew scowled and tossed the book away. It landed unceremoniously on a pile of similar books in the corner of his squalid, unkempt trailer. The whole thing looked like a scene out of an episode of Hoarders, that TV show about people who compulsively collect and store various things until their homes begin to look like garbage dumps. In his case, it was more than just appearances. He had a home-based business that consisted of purchasing batches of items and selling them on eBay. Most of his wares were acquired the same way these were, by bidding on the contents of public storage lockers where the renter had defaulted. He got his hands on some good stuff that way, but every once in a while, there was a bunch of worthless garbage like this. Frankly, he couldn't understand how one person could write an entire 5-by-5-foot locker full of journals. One of them had used a dollar bill as a bookmark, and he was becoming convinced that that was about as much of his investment as he was going to see returned on this mistake. His room smelled of dust mites and molds, and would have sickened a man of weaker constitution. Matt was fortunate in his lifelong condition of being healthy and hale, with no health conditions more serious than a matching set of middle-aged potbelly and love handles. But his good fortune did not extend to monetary wealth. He picked up another book and shook it hard, hoping for something good to fall out. Disappointed, he ruffled through the pages. He went on like that for about a half an hour before a loud thump outside alarmed him. It sounded like one of his trash cans knocked over. Okay, I'm gonna turn this. "Damn raccoons," he shouted, heading for the broom closet. He didn't even have to open it all the way to locate his rifle in the dark, propped up on the inside door, fully loaded. "Damn raccoons," he shouted, heading for the... Okay, I just read that. Just then, he saw a glint out of the corner of his eyes and quickly turned around, instinctively raising his weapon. A woman in a long black hooded cloak was standing in front of him, no more than 2 feet away. "Where did you come from?" he sputtered, confused. She looked about 19 and was heavily pregnant. Her face was marked on the cheeks and forehead with some sort of neo-tribal tattoo, and below them the skin was covered in pock marks. Although he didn't see any acne now, they looked like old scars. She wore an eye patch. "That's quite a get-up you have there, Missy," he said, waving the gun and her face menacingly. She shoved the gun down with one hand and answered back, "Missy, yes, that's a fine name, sure. My name is Missy. How did you know?" And that's Sarah. Picked up her cell phone and dialed. "Frederican?" she asked the man who answered the phone. "I think you mean Frederick, Leilani," snapped the nasal young man on the other end of the line. She knew that was Frederick's latest boyfriend. He liked him young, and this guy Hugo liked older men. Although Sarah was sure he had no idea exactly how much older Frederick was. Fad looked about 50 the last time she saw him. "Put your sugar fatty on the phone, you jealous little weasel," Sarah ordered playfully. She knew he was jealous. She knew they had a history. There was just no way that he could know it was many, many lifetimes ago. "That's Freddie, not Fatty, and I'm not jealous of you, you one-eyed snaggletooth bitch," he screamed before switching her over to the hold music. She waited. Half an hour later, Frederick picked up the phone. "You've got to stop screwing your secretaries, Frederick. Your boy put me on hold for so long, even I could feel myself aging," she quipped. "Oh, hello, Leilani, sweetheart," he answered cheerfully. "You know, you should try it. You might like it." "I'm not into that Twilight grab-a-barely legal human craze, even though I know all of the cool ghouls are doing it," she remarked dryly. "You vampire wannabe." "He is a lot cuter than me, though. He isn't bothered by your bitten off ass cheek." "Bitter, bitter, bitter," he said, shaking his head. Although, of course, she couldn't see it. "I had my ass surgically repaired back in the 80s, so, Queen of the Night, what can I do for you? My plastic surgery business is booming these days, you know." "I know, no more leeches, right? We've been doing some great work. I could fix you right up." "I'll keep that in mind," she said in a pissy tone. "I'm not really into looking inhumanly good, but you might consider giving yourself a facelift, old man." "I have. You haven't seen me in a while. I look like a man of 30. "It's fantastic," he squealed. "Really, you should see me." "That's great," she sighed. "But I have bigger issues. I want to know if you figured out a way to get the thing the hell out of me without me dropping dead and it eating its way out." Now it was Frederick doing the sighing. "Oh, that again. Well, I have improved my abortion technique since that unfortunate incident. I make sure the brain is completely sucked out now. I may be less disturbed by the rumors of Roseanne's botched abortion than I am by the memories of Lizzie's messy cesarean," she said sadly. "Oh, right," he responded, becoming flushed. "I'd completely forgotten you were there with Lisbeth. It was ages ago." "Yes, well, it sure shocked me when I ran into you that one time in good old San Francisco, and you were going by that name. I'll tell you, You have the most wonderfully morbid sense of humor. That really should have reminded me, though. That name is probably cursed, Leilani rooted. When I used it, it turned out terribly for me. So, we're going to stop that portion of this chapter here. Are we good?
Yeah.
You guys are cool? You're not getting freaked out by zombies?
Not yet,
No,
Not yet?
unfortunately.
but ass surgery is interesting.
The ass surgery? Okay. Now that Frederick has had his ass surgery, yeah, he's a plastic surgeon to the stars and to the ghouls, because ghouls they live a really long time. They're not immortal like vampires, but they live a long time. That's why she's been pregnant for 600 years, because that's pretty much how long it takes. It's taken 600 years for her, fetus to develop 9 months. So she's pissed off by now, because who the hell wants to be pregnant for 600 years, right? And her friend who used to put leeches on people and suck blood, because ghouls have to eat human flesh, and drink human blood to live. And the more pretentious ones just drink the blood because they don't want to get, busted like eating flesh, because that would not be as cool as pretending to be a vampire. So Fatty likes to drink blood. And pretty much what's happened here is that she's been reacquainted with her friend, who's now, rather than cutting people's veins open so that he can suck their blood while pretending to cure them like he did back in the 1400s, running a plastic surgery business in Hollywood, which some would actually equate to being a blood-sucking leech as well. So it's kind of like he stayed on the same life path. Okay, so speaking of the 1400s, now the next portion of the story that we're going to actually read is a little about Sura's career, because see, when these ghouls pass away, they become zombies, and she's a zombie slayer. So here we go. She followed him into the graveyard, littered with unburied bodies. We aren't entirely sure if they are dead yet, he said, but I am understandably concerned with the accidental burial of the living. Starving to death in a coffin, Sura agreed. It really is the stuff of nightmares. I was subjected to it before I was afflicted, he said wide-eyed. Medicine should be better. I'm sure it will be. I've found my mission in life, to improve it, and the pox afflicted, they are in the cemetery with their burial sheets. He had begun to forget his mission a bit. He spent more time prescribing bleeding as a sure way to health, whether he thought that it was needed or not. But he saw no mention to mention that to Sura. So, this is a wake, she said. Let's wait here. She gestured at a rock at the edge of the cemetery. They sat and they waited. Suddenly, one of the bodies began to rise. Sura flew in a blur to the source of the motion before Frederick could blink. He saw her thrust her staff through the eye of a man and out the back of his skull before slicing his head off with a short broadside. He heard a pop when the stick came out the rear of the skull. She was back at his side on the stone before he could even close his dropped open mouth. This scene more or less repeated itself a half-dozen times before he put his hand on her shoulder and pled, "Wait, please, tell me, how do you know they are not living?" "The dead smell," she explained. "They carry the stench of rotting meat and attract to themselves all manner of small hungry insects and rodents who enjoy feasting on corpses. It is easy to distinguish the odor of the living." She went back to her killing, but some time later they sat, and another of the bodies rose, and she said to him, "Wait, that one is different. I can smell its life." She lives? He asked. She smells as we do, she answered. We should help her. Both moved quickly to aid the woman who was seen to be very pregnant. My name is Lisbeth, she said wearily. I must sit. I do not feel well. They took her to the rock and stood while she sat. Ooh, she cried, it hurts. The baby comes. It hurts. It hurts. I am a doctor, Frederick said, moving in to assist her. I can help you, lady. Stay away from her, Sarah warned. I smell something wrong. Make it stop, Lisbeth screamed. It burns, it burns. Sarah took one look at her and leapt several feet back. The pregnant woman's belly was moving in strange ways that it shouldn't. In anguish, she tore off her burial shroud and began to scream. Get it out! Get it out! It hurts! It hurts! The shapes of hands and a face pressed outward from her belly, and Sarah could see the mouth on that face was moving. Her baby is dead, Sarah said under her breath. Nonsense, Frederick countered. I am not a midwife, but I know that birth is a painful process. I'm sure she's quite normal. The thrashing infant captured a bit of flesh in its mouth. They could see the skin fold inward as it bit down. Perhaps it is dead, Frederick quickly corrected himself, but how could it bite her? It has no teeth. Pinched flesh pulled deeper into the woman's belly as though something was pulling it, and suddenly it burst. A gush of blood and pus spurted out of the hole in Lisbeth's belly. It hit a horrified Frederick in the face, and he fell backwards. Lisbeth screamed, Get it out of me, please, get it out! Sarah pulled out her curved blade. She didn't think Lisbeth would enjoy having it ripped out of her, but it seemed like it was on its way to getting out by itself. Tiny fingers pulled the hole open as the mouth pulled again and again at the puckered flesh. The monstrous infant seemed to be eating the poor woman from the inside out. Putrid fluids poured from her ruptured body. Eventually, the baby began to shove its head out of the enlarged hole. Once it was out to the neck, Sarah flew in and separated the head from its spine. How can it eat her? Frederick repeated, aghast. It has no teeth. It has no teeth. She will die soon, Sarah said dourly. Part of it is in her, and she bleeds so much. I shall not die, Lisbeth said serenely. I will live happily with my child in the home of my husband. The poor creature was covered in pox and appeared to have gone quite mad. She tore open her bodice, then picked the dead newborn's head up and pressed the still moving mouth against her breast. The dead infant's body lay still in her bulging belly, unmoving fingers clutching to the edges of the gaping wound. Frederick doubled over and vomited on his expensive shoes. I am finished here, Sarah informed him, looking down at his head. The child will stop moving in time, and the woman is quite mad, but living. I do not kill the living. We will live, she will live, or she will die. It is not mine to determine. Now, I wish to be paid. Okay. So hopefully you guys just don't think I'm like a complete crazy psycho person that you don't want to know who's lost her damn mind now that I've read that. But yeah, that was one. Okay. Yeah. Just because I wrote about some messed up pregnant cool with the zombie baby eating his way out. That doesn't mean I'm a bad person. Okay? Stop judging me. You guys stop judging me.
600 years of waiting for it to finally arrive and for that to go wrong.
Yeah. That was a different pregnant ghoul. But yeah, that's why the 600. But yeah, okay, that reminds me. I'm supposed to ask if you guys have any questions. And yeah, the lady's a 600-year-old pregnant chick. And that was when she was young. She was just slaying zombies. This is going to happen to her. The lady who chopped off the baby's head, she found out she was pregnant after that. She's not real happy. So she.
I'd like all of you to welcome my dear friend Sumiko Saulson. I never say her last name, Saulson. And she's going to be reading